Hello everyone and welcome back to my opinion. And in this video, I'll be talking about the bunch of games which happened in the round of 16 in Euro 2020. So first up, Wales versus Denmark. Now, I was looking forward to this game a lot because Denmark, after what happened with Christian Eriksen, they still managed to get out of the group with one win. And especially the way they got that win, they scored four against Russia, and really, they had a very good performance against Belgium as well. But Kevin De Bruyne came on and probably gave the best second half cameo, still I'd say in this tournament so far. And I think he was only again he wasn't even up to full fitness, and even then he just completely turned the game around. And Denmark managed to get past the group stage even with 3 points, which I still think they wouldn't have lost to Finland in the first game if it wasn't for what happened with Christian Eriksen, because they weren't really given much time to recover. I think 90 minutes after the game was kind of suspended, they came back on, and even saw the way Emil Hoberg missed the penalty. Well, yeah, I think he just scuffed the penalty straight to the goalkeeper. And it was just their body language just wasn't great. And we've seen, in these past few games, especially these past couple of games, how good of a team they can be when they play well. And it's just that they were overwhelming favorites against Finland, but unfortunately, because of that whole Christian Eriksen thing that happened, it was just, I think that they felt quite fractured during that 90 minutes. But yeah, the fact that they made it out of the group was a great thing. And they were always going to have that confidence, especially after the game against Russia, coming into this game. Now Wales, they didn't really have as turbulent of a competition that Denmark did, and they got, I think, a 1 point against Switzerland when they weren't playing well, and then they brushed Turkey aside, quite frankly, and then they lost to Italy. But overall, you could give them a pass for what they produced in the group stage. And coming into this, I think that the eyes were on Gareth Bale and Aaron Ramsey, the real class players in this Wales team. And, of course, Denmark, we all knew have, the better squad, even without Christian Eriksen. But it's just the fact that you could never doubt the class of those two players. Now, really, what happened for Wales is that they only actually got, I think, 10 or 15 minutes in the first half where they really, they were, especially when you saw Gareth Bale just put that chance wide. It was that point in time when they were really, getting to create some chances. But apart from that, I mean, it was Denmark all the way through, and especially in the second half, it was a capitulation. We saw the red card, you saw, the couple of goals at the end. Now, I thought 4-0 was a bit harsh, and I'll say this because so the first goal was, I think, Kasper Dolberg came into the team. I think Yusuf Poulsen was out, and he had, a very good game. He scored two goals, and the first goal, especially, it's a very good finish from Kasper Dolberg, and that put Wales on the back foot because just before then, that was, the point just after when Wales are actually putting a lot of pressure on Denmark. And then this goal definitely kind of set them back. And for the second goal, so there should have been a foul, but the foul wasn't given. And they got the ball to the goal line, but unfortunately the clearance wasn't very good from the Wales defender. And then I think Dolberg scored again. I think it was Dolberg anyway. And it was just that after this point in time, I really feel that, of course, after the first goal, Wales were feeling a bit uncomfortable. But after this point in time, especially considering, the sense of being unfortunate surrounded by, especially, when there should have been a foul, but there wasn't, I felt like it was going to be very difficult for Wales to come back against a Denmark team that, with all that had happened to them, the emotional roller coaster they'd gone through to get here, you kind of didn't see Denmark relinquishing this, lead, and they didn't, because in the end, Wales kind of lost their composure. Denmark scored two more goals, which I felt like, despite the fact that they were, Denmark did score them, I felt like they were the product of, also a frustrated Wales side, which, they just couldn't really stop this onslaught. And so I think 4-0 is a bit harsh. I think it was 2-0 comfortably. But yeah, Denmark, at the end of the day, they really turned up. And in the second half, especially, I mean, Gareth Bale, Aaron Ramsey, they weren't even, they just didn't get involved at all because there was just a barrage from Denmark, especially, it got the last two goals when Wales were kind of losing their composure. So that was that game. And, they completely destroyed Wales, and now I think they play Czech Republic, which would be a very good game indeed. Then Italy versus Austria. Now this game, it was, the thing is, I didn't expect Austria to fold, and I think that you thought they would give some kind of fight, which they did. In fact, I thought they should have won the game because Italy. It's like this. Despite the fact that they were playing, not playing their greatest football, I thought they still managed to create chances, sporadically out of the blue. You saw Immobile, putting a ball over the top, Immobile trying to get on the ball, and also Insigne. But I think it was a kind of thing where they're at that stage where I think they could still hang on because they had the confidence of whatever they'd done before, and they only conceded a goal in this game after 30 games, which is just, that's how good they've been defensively. And the thing is, as I said, it's like, despite the fact that I thought Austria should have won the game and that goal scored by Arnautovic was offside, and I felt like Italy, especially in that extra time phase, you thought that after they'd hung on for, especially, in the second half, they hung on, despite the fact that they did create chances, they couldn't score them. And then I thought, especially that second goal, one of the goals of the tournament for me, just because of how much skill it, had involved, was Chiesa. I mean, he took a touch, then, he moved to his left, and then he put a volley into the side netting. Well, side netting, I mean, like into the goal, but inside of the net. And it was a great goal. And Austria also got a goal as well. They completely deserved it. A header, an excellent header, actually, because, it wasn't a great cross, but he somehow managed to get it, between the post and the goalkeeper into the net. But yeah, Italy, at the end of, the game, you'd kind of think, despite the fact that Austria, I would say, especially in the second half, Austria deserved to win the game. And because the fact that even then, Italy defended quite a few of, Austria's attempts to score a goal. And even then, they also, in the way that they still managed to create sporadic chances and even advance up the field at certain points in the game as well, I feel like you could just say Italy was the slightly better team. And that's why I said, when you're playing well, and I think with what the managers, done to their side, I really think that they still had some kind of reign on the game so they could create those chances. And yeah, I think that at the end of the day, they deserve to go through. Then the other one, this is where the upsets started. So Netherlands and Czech Republic. Now, I thought, now this isn't anything against Netherlands. I really think, I've always thought, well, not always, but they're really, I found them really overrated. Now, of course, Frank de Boer's had his criticisms when coming into the tournament. And the thing is, Netherlands, they won, their three group games, albeit against, arguably lesser opposition. But they won their three group games. And I thought that, people criticized him, Frank de Boer, for playing a back five, but I actually think it wasn't such a bad decision because the fact is that I think they mentioned it on commentary as well. I think the idea was that they don't really have that standout wingers, which is true, and so especially with Depay and Marlon, and they were very good this tournament. Okay, in this game, apart from the one Marlon chance, they weren't necessarily that great, but throughout the tournament in those three games, they were very good. And I thought that, this was a system that was working for the Dutch in this tournament. And they were overwhelming favourites coming into this game because after Czech Republic beat Scotland, I thought they should have beat Croatia because apart from the Perisic goal, Croatia, for me, they lacked intensity. And then it was a very underwhelming loss to England. So you kind of thought, with the confidence the Netherlands have, it's just that you couldn't really see the Czech Republic beating them, but instead they beat them 2-0. And honestly, even before De Ligt got sent off, Czech Republic were the better team. And I think that, it was it was a red card. I mean, he literally just paddled the ball away because, the opposition player was going to be clear on goal. And it's just the fact that after that point, Netherlands just didn't look comfortable at all. And they lost the game 2-0. I think Wijnaldum made 10 passes in 90 minutes. Depay was, almost just not there. Marlon had one very good chance, but it was very bizarre because instead of taking a shot, he just ran straight through to the goalkeeper. The goalkeeper kept very well, by the way. He ran out to him, so he didn't give him a chance to think. And then, yeah, that was really the clear cut time. There was also another chance where I think Dumfries put a cross in, but it was defended well. And yeah, the fact is, they really played very well, the Czech Republic, and they thoroughly deserved to win this game. Then Belgium versus Portugal. Now, this was a game which I kind of thought. I thought Belgium would win. It's just the fact that you look at Portugal have very good players, but if you have this mental spearhead, it's Cristiano Ronaldo. But no other team has these three players, I'm going to say, as their spearheads, which is, Eden Hazard, Romelu Lukaku, Kevin De Bruyne. Now, if they all play together as a front three, I just, whole Belgium bottling anything in this tournament is going to be very difficult. Now, oh shit. The thing is, yeah, it's going to be very difficult for Belgium to bottle anything in this tournament if those three play together. Now, I understand they have an injury crisis because Eden Hazard and Kevin De Bruyne seem to be injured from the last game, but I still think they'll play, a half? But even them playing for a half may be enough to win the game. So I just feel like Belgium have, despite the fact, even if those two aren't playing, despite the fact that they are integral to their team, they have players like Dries Mertens and so on, who can also do a job and are very good players. So again, I thought Belgium would win this game, but Portugal have Ronaldo and very good players around him. So I thought, it'd be an interesting game. And really, Portugal were the better team. The fact is, the fact is that, so it was actually a very attritional game, and Portugal defended very well against Belgium. And the problem with Portugal was that, and people criticized the manager for this because of their very defensive system, passages of play, despite the fact they have all this attacking talent. And the thing was that, it was, I think there was this one point where, there was going to be this breakaway kind of thing, and Renato Sanchez was at, towards like the corner line, and then he tried to do this step over, he couldn't, and then he just passed it back again. The other player just looked left and right and then passed it back again as well, and that move just completely collapsed. And then that's basically what happened. And so the only thing you could have thought they could have done was attack, or especially in the first half, was attack Belgium on the break. But then there's no one, apart from Ronaldo, who's 36, there's no one who really you could have thought would have made that run. Renato Sanchez was brilliant. This game was, once again, like he was brilliant against France. But again, they couldn't really get a goal as such, but he's still very good. And really, it was a brilliant goal from Torgan Hazard. Now, the thing is, again, people say he's been looked at as Eden Hazard's little brother, but the thing is, I would say at least from ever since he moved to Borussia Dortmund, especially, I think that his reputation has increased, much more than that, or at least it has with me anyway, because I've been a huge fan of Torgan Hazard ever since I saw him play, from before. And the thing is, yeah, he scored a brilliant goal, and the reason why it was such a good goal is because people were saying the goalkeeper should have done better. But the thing is, the curve away at the last minute, it was just a fraction, but it went away from the goalie, and it was. I would say it wasn't very possible to save that at all, and it was a great goal, and it was needed because it was the only way that these two sides would be separated, and that was the way they were separated in the end. And especially in the second half, you saw Belgium needed that because Portugal it was a barrage, and honestly, I thought Diogo Jota really did not have a great game at all. There were some clear-cut chances that went to him, and he just couldn't do anything with them, and they did thwart Ronaldo, who, by the way, it's like this. Now, of course, I'm a very big Ronaldo fan, and I'm glad that Ian Wright pointed this out on commentary, because in the first half, now we all know he does not score many free kicks, but then when the moment, I understand it's kind of hyping him up because he deserves to be, but the moment he was, there was a free kick, and all right, he had the best chance of the game, and the goalkeeper, it wasn't really challenging him. Of course, he would save it, Courtois, but it's nowadays, whenever they say, "Oh, this is Ronaldo territory for a free kick," you just know he isn't gonna score it. And that's what Ian Wright said, because everyone, he doesn't score many free kicks. And in the second half, they changed it from it's Ronaldo territory to he doesn't score many free kicks, but he is capable of scoring them. So that's the thing, is the fact that this, as I said, Ronaldo was a mental spearhead for them. And I just felt that, if especially in the first half, if you had to rely on a breakaway with Ronaldo leading it as the only way that you necessarily try and score, and this is the defense that were good on the day, Belgium, but it's an aging defense, and there have been question marks about it. So it's that if you consider all those factors, and if you thought if that's the only way in the first half that they were actually gonna try and score, then it was very difficult. And even though Portugal, it was a barrage, I felt like they should have won the game, and it wasn't the best game for Belgium at all. But this is the one reason that really put daylight between these two teams on the day, and it's the fact that, despite the fact Portugal had more of the ball, had more attempts of a ball, and more attempts on goal, it's that you saw even the first half when Portugal tried to manufacture an opportunity. I talked about the slow build-up, which prevented them from really going further. Belgium, they just jogged a few, yards and passed the ball, and then that's it. They were just near the Portugal defense, and all right, Portugal defended those attacks, but it was so easy for them to just get towards the Portugal defense with a much more smoother build-up. And that was what really people have criticized the manager of Portugal for, because with these attacking players, surely you should be a bit more expansive. And yeah, that was that Ronaldo out of the Euros. It was a very sad moment for me, but I'm the kind of person that feels bad for the other team as well. So I didn't know who to support, because Belgium as the golden generation, and they'd really want to win a trophy. And then there's Ronaldo, who you'd want to also win another trophy. So yeah, it was that, but in the end, Belgium won. So that was that. And they're going to play Italy. So then, I think this year, a day where two brilliant games. If I can just 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Croatia versus Spain. Now, I thought that Croatia were going to win this, because, again, I didn't want to take Spain's 5-0 thrashing of Slovakia as a sense that they'd somehow turned it around and this was their team really confident, because Slovakia were terrible. And this is a Spain team that struggled to put a goal past Sweden and score. And that Sweden versus Poland game was basically just a rugby game inside the box. Especially, in Poland's box, when, Spain were trying to score. Morata just, he stroked the ball in the first half. But apart from that, I mean, they really struggled to, really. There was a penalty that was missed. And so, yeah, this really wasn't, I think it hit the post. So they weren't very convincing up to that point, but the game against Slovakia, it did them a lot of good. And I think that coming into this game, as I said, now Croatia had been, the lack of intensity had just been, you saw England brush them aside. Czech Republic should have won that game against them. If it wasn't for Perisic's goal, then this was another lackluster performance. And then they beat Scotland, all right, but you thought that it was too hard to, I understand why people would have thought that Spain were going to beat Croatia from that point, but especially with the latest game they had. But I just thought that with Spain not being able to score, that many goals, especially in the first two games, only one goal in the first two games, and the fact that Croatia, I just thought, with Modric, and plus, they have this core from the 2018 World Cup. They also have new players such as Orsic. I thought that they could have won this game. And honestly, it says 3-5, and it was 3-3, but I really wanted Spain to win the game, and lucky they did, because it's like this. So Spain were absolutely, surrounding Croatia. Croatia just couldn't match their intensity at all. And one of the most bizarre own goals you'll see, where he just passes, the Spanish defender passes it back, the ball slightly goes away from the goalkeeper. So when he took a touch, it kind of went off his boot and into the goal. And it was very good from Spain that they still managed to, not crumble at that moment and proceed to score 3 goals after that point, which, I mean, they completely destroyed Croatia, I'd say, because it's, especially up to the 3-1 point, they completely destroyed Croatia. And there was honestly seemingly no way back for Croatia rather. But then The two goals in basically 10 minutes. And, no one expected it, but it happened in 3-3. And then I think just about the first 5 minutes. So the thing is, Croatia basically only turned up for about, 15 minutes. So, from minute 80 to 90, and then in the extra time 90 to 95. And after that, Spain scored two goals for a brilliant finish from Morata, a volley. And the thing is, in the game, his build-up play was excellent. He always links up the ball well, but it's his finishing that's been, under criticism. And the fact is that he honestly, that volley was brilliant, and Spain scored the fourth, and Oyarzabal scored the fifth, and that was pretty much game, set, and match. So Spain won, and they were deserved winners. And really, Croatia, I say it's 3-3. Croatia only turned up for about 15 minutes in that game, and one of the goal wasn't even there. So that's the thing. They are a very good team, but I just feel like Spain, but they deserve to win this game. Now, the game of the tournament, and the game that probably the best ever international football game that I've watched, and France versus Switzerland. Now, seeing the upsets, Netherlands especially, seeing Austria playing very well against Italy and almost beating them, you kind of just thought this has, I thought definitely this has upset written all over it. Now, a few of my friends were kind of saying, can Switzerland win it? And, I thought they were just joking, because the thing is, now I said I had upset written all over it. This is the one reason why I still had a bit of doubts. One, it's France. And two, you saw how Italy absolutely destroyed Switzerland, where especially towards the second. I mean, I thought it should have been 6-0 in that match, because Immobile had a few chances where he should have put in the back of the net. And it's the fact is that what happened in the second half was, especially towards the end, they just did these 5-yard passes, and then when they just tentatively dribbled the ball up the field, and then they just lost it, and Italy got a chance to try and get the ball into the back of the net. So from that kind of a game, you saw France and Switzerland, all right, and upsets there, but don't be surprised if France show why they're world champions. But I don't know why the manager did this, but he changed the system. Now, I'm looking at the Italy game against Switzerland and thinking, if you really get it right against them, and if you have the players to, if you have, if you're confident in the passages of play, and if it, effective against their opposition, this is what you could do to them, a 3-0 drubbing. And so if Italy could do that, why couldn't the world champions just play the way that they usually do, and they could have steamrolled Switzerland? But instead, I felt like they changed to a back three, and they were uncomfortable throughout the entire game, that defense. And Seferovic scored with a header in the 14th minute to make it 1-0. And Switzerland and France, they got close to goal. The finishing was poor throughout this game. I know there were 3 goals, but around those, it wasn't very good. And it was 1-0 to Switzerland at the half-time interval, and it should have been 2-0, but Ricardo Rodriguez, a very tame penalty. And Hugo Lloris said this is, I think it was at the 61st minute. And after that, France scored. And the moment France scored, I thought this was going to be game over. And then Benzema scored 2 goals, very quickly. And then Pogba's goal was absolutely brilliant. I think towards the 70th minute or so. And you thought, right, game done. And then Deschamps subbed off Griezmann. And I thought, all right, I'm not saying Switzerland are going to score 2 more goals, which they did. But it was the fact that, he subbed off Griezmann. And the fact is that Switzerland then scored 2 more goals. And especially the last goal was literally just pulling this out of the fire, because time was really running out at that point. But it was 3-3. I think it was Gavranovic. And the game went to extra time, and Switzerland immediately got that confidence back, of which, they didn't have in the 3-1 stage. But even then, I felt like their performance up till France's first goal had, instilled some belief that, okay, we've made it this far. And unlike other teams, with no disrespect, lesser teams, they wouldn't have been able to build this foundation of confidence in the game. Like, we've conceded the goals, but the fact is we haven't really played badly up to this point. And we could get 2 goals. And I don't think they would have overhyped that, but then they just took the opportunities as they came, and the opportunities came and they scored. And I thought the man of the match for Switzerland, Granit Xhaka, absolutely brilliant. I mean, him and Pogba, their passing was brilliant. And, Granit Xhaka especially was talismanic in this win. And thing is, probably the best attacking player in Switzerland's side, Zedan Shaqiri, apart from this free kick where he did an excellent delivery, but, it didn't come to go in the end. He was anonymous. And that's where, the best attacking player in your side, and you look at all the attacking players France have, and you just think Switzerland looked so, all right, it was sometimes frantic, but mostly I would say Switzerland were, they look very good. And it's the fact that the reason why it was so surprising for me is because I saw that Italy game, and then you just think, how did they change from that to this? And it went to penalties, and Kylian Mbappe, who's not had a very great Euros. Now, people think he's not had a great Euros, but the thing is, he's actually been very good apart from the goals, especially, against, Hungary. I thought he was very good apart from the goals. And even in this game, he got an assist, but there was a penalty, which I don't think was that bad of a penalty, but Jan Sommer saved it to make it 5-4. And speaking of Sakiri, I don't even think he took a penalty. So he really, apart from that one kick, he was basically anonymous in the entire game, but he didn't really have to be there because the others were there. And Seferovic, the man of the, the 2 goals, really, I thought, he was excellent. And yeah, 2 goals against the world champions. And in the end, Switzerland beat France. And I don't think anyone after that Italy game would have said anything about Switzerland beating France. But they just did. And it was probably the best game of football that I've ever watched. And especially in international football. And yeah, just, the world champions are out. So then England versus Germany. Now, the thing about this here is that after England, Germany is probably my second favorite team. In this encounter, obviously, I'd want England to win anyway. So I thought 2-0 because simply I thought players like Saka, and I even thought, okay, they probably wouldn't play Foden considering they hadn't played him for, some of the other games. But the fact is that I thought, as far as being incisive is concerned, if they also played Foden along with Saka, then Germany playing a 3-4-3, their confidence is fragile, and, their players aren't that slow, but aren't that quick either. So I thought they could run through their midfield. And Germany didn't play as bad as, the scoreline suggests. In fact, Havertz, I thought, was their best player on the day. Thomas Muller had that chance, which he sprayed wide. But you always thought England would win the game. And yeah, Raheem Sterling has been brilliant. And people criticizing him, after the season he's had with Man City. But then he scores 3 goals in 4 games. And yeah, he's been brilliant in this tournament. England's best player by far in the Euros. And then Harry Kane got that vital goal with Jack Grealish getting a second assist of the tournament. And yeah, it was a great performance from England. Especially in this, and the reason why I'm saying this win took a lot of character is because in the second half, especially for the first 10 minutes, I thought Germany were, poised to get a goal. But England really had to fight through, Germany surrounding their goal. And yeah, in the end, overall, I'd say, you thought that England were the favourites and they did play very well. And yeah, I really think that, I don't want to jinx anything, but it's a ticket to the final and we'll have to see who will play them, because I reckon either Belgium or Italy, unless there's somehow another upset from that round. Let's just see how that whole thing goes. So that was that game. And then finally, Sweden versus Ukraine. So this game was actually, after England versus Germany, this game kind of seemed like, would it really get that much attention? But, it's a Euros game, so I watched it. And it was actually a very good game. So this was another upset because Ukraine, Sweden were overwhelming favourites for this game. And Zinchenko got this, a goal, I think in the 27th minute. He was excellent throughout this game. 1 goal and 1 assist. In that dramatic finish, just before the 30 minutes of extra time were going to end. Then Sweden surrounded Ukraine, and the goal was a bit of a jammy deflection, but Sweden did deserve it. Forsberg scoring, and off the deflection, and it was 1-1. And the thing is, I look at this Sweden team, and the one thing you do see is they're very well drilled, but The problem, I felt like they had to win the game early because if you look at Ukraine, you look at Sweden, they just seem to be much more. I don't think anyone in Sweden can do that Yarmolenko type thing. Of course, Forsberg came close to hit the post twice, but I never thought that they just didn't really seem to now, especially with Ibrahimovic injured, they didn't really seem to have that player who win it in injury time in the 90th minute. So I thought that as long as as the game went on, I thought that Ukraine were capable of producing that kind of special moment, and it didn't come in the way that I thought it would, and it was actually very players were getting injured quite a lot in that extra time phase, and it was very physically taxing because naturally, they had played for a long time, and yeah, it's just that they thought both teams, especially towards the end of the 90 minutes as well, it was kind of looked like they were kind of scrappily conserving their energy. But Zinchenko floats an excellent ball in to I can't remember who the scorer was, but I think he was a replacement for someone else. I think Junior Moraes, I think it was. He was a replacement for him. And he heads the ball in and he scores. And so that was an upset as well because Sweden were the overwhelming favourites, but Ukraine scored and they play England. So that was this round of 16, an incredible, bunch of matches. And yeah, it's just a let's see. I mean, obviously, like the tie of the round of the quarterfinals will be Italy versus Belgium. And slightly previewing that, the thing is, it's going to be managerial kind of, confidence in, as I said, passages of play versus a team which is just completely stacked full of outright stars. And so the first is Italy, the second is Belgium. And so, as I said, if Hazard and De Bruyne and Lukaku play for even a half, I reckon Belgium 2, Italy 1. But you never know what Italy could do. The body language around the team is very good. They don't have as many injury concerns. And yeah, they're creating chances as well. So, be very good game to watch. I still think Belgium 2, Italy 1. But whoever loses this is by no means a bad team because they in this tournament have showed that, yeah, they've shown how good they are, especially Italy. So, yeah. If you enjoyed this video, please like and subscribe and please share this video with your friends. And remember, this is my opinion. What's yours?